Hi, everyone, and welcome to AB Conversations, where we will help you CFP your way out of it. A podcast where you get into the minds of a couple certified financial planners on how we think and feel about everyday financial planning questions and what should really matter most to you. A healthier financial life starts now.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, good sir.
And happy whichever day you are listening or watching this at home or at work or in your car. To those listening.
Right. Or watching.
That's right. So today we have I'll say interesting topic. It was born out of some recent experiences that we've had.
Yep.
Dealing with a potential new client and just how they go about going through the process of deciding whether to work with us, deciding, interviewing other advisors, multiple different options. Maybe in this one circumstance, it was they had worked with a firm for many years and are now coming to us to help answer some questions, and just trying to guide him through that process of making a decision on where he should move next to help guide through that next phase of his life. And how do we as CFPs help play that role?
Yeah, and I think that's where we kind of want to start, right? So as much as this is a podcast that we are, clearly trying to share how we do things, what truly is a passion of ours is educating the public, I think, on what they need to know, regardless of whether they're working with us or not. And I think we as an industry have made it very confusing to differentiate, right, how advisors may do things different, what they call themselves. Truly, in the instance of this gentleman who was coming with really good questions on what he thinks he needed to have answers on, that we truly believe is the heart of financial planning, right? How am I going to accomplish these things? He didn't have any of the other background or knowledge on what are the questions I really should be asking to figure out if you're the right fit for me. And I think we take for granted that, we know what those questions should be. We take for granted on knowing what a certified financial planner is. And we also acknowledge it's not his fault, but our industry does a really, really, really bad job confusing people and misguiding them. So there's my little soapbox. I'll get off of it so that we can be productive in this podcast. But it's definitely something like it goes back to why we started this business. Right. So that we could educate people on what we truly believe financial planning is. So let's just do that. CFP, what does it stand for? Why don't you give us maybe a little groundwork on certified financial planner?
Yep. So you already took away answer number one. What does it stand for?
Okay.
CFP stands for Certified Financial Planner, and it is the highest designation available for those that do financial planning work. So as our title suggests, you and I are both one of those things. We are each a CFP. And I think the statistic right now is at 83,000 CFPs in the country. And that's among 300,000 or so financial advisors, quote unquote financial advisors. We'll kind of get into that titling of how people present themselves. Yeah, so about 1 in 4 financial advisors are CFPs, but we'll kind of go down that road too. Not all CFPs are created equal, and I think I'll throw that back to you to kind of go through that.
Yeah, because CFP then, to understand not just the numbers and the magnitude and what it stands for, you have to have a degree of experience behind that. You can't carry those credentials until you're at least 3 years experienced in the business. And as a credential, you have to go through a pretty rigorous educational and testing process. And then on top of that, you have to meet certain continuing education requirements over and over again every 2 years, hours and hours of education. So it's not just becoming a CFP, but it's maintaining it that I think is important to kind of understand.
Yeah.
I would guess, why should that matter to people is the question. Right? If we say we're CFPs and we think, and we're going to say this, if you were trying to figure out whether you should be working with a CFP or not, the first question just needs to be, do you want more than asset management or some sort of product? Because if the answer to that is yes, then to us, it should be a non-starter. You need to go find one of these 83,000 people who can and are credentialed to do more, which is going to start in our world with just answering questions of what are you trying to achieve? And those that aren't CFPs, they may say they're financial planners. They're allowed to call themselves financial planners. They can't call themselves certified financial planners. But there's a classic example of how our industry just messes this up. Somebody can call themselves a financial planner. And to me, that sounds a lot like a certified financial planner, doesn't it?
It's only one word off.
Yeah, right. So close. But there's a lot to that.
Yeah. So in my head, it's the difference between a specialist and a general practitioner, right? In thinking about it from a medical perspective, right? You go to your primary care physician. They're the general practitioner. They know a lot about a lot of different things, but they may not be specialized in any one specific area. You know, you need knee surgery. You're probably not going to your primary care physician to get that done. I don't know if this is an apt analogy or not. You'll tell me that it's not. But in our world, if we are truly doing planning work, right, not just investment management, but let's look at someone's entire financial picture, then yes, we certainly believe wholeheartedly that if you want those types of questions answered, right, where we see it in around retirement, it's can I retire? What is it going to take for me to retire? What do I need to save? Well, when should I elect Social Security? I have this pension. What should I do with it? If you want those questions answered with some data behind them, that has no focus necessarily on, well, should I be owning 10% in this large cap growth fund, or should I be owning 5%? That's completely unrelated.
Yeah, and that's what really, again, stinks about our industry, because I think we've done a horrible job presenting this as that's what planning is. It's answering really important questions. That, by the way, is not a conflict of interest to lead you to some sort of product or investment solution, right? We get very frustrated when somebody calls themselves a financial planner and says, well, I do that for free. I'll give you a financial plan. Well, what's behind that? Like, what's the conflict then that's leading you to actually caring about the solution that I'm going to need? If you are a certified financial planner, you have to be a fiduciary. We don't like that word because people don't, it's another buzzword in the industry.
Yeah. What does it mean?
Let's use the analogy of the butcher and the dietitian, right? It's our favorite way to describe this. If you go to the butcher because you want to go get some meat, you go in there expecting that the butcher is going to sell you a piece of meat, right? And maybe he knows more about meat than anybody else. So you trust him to tell you what is the best meat for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Is the butcher going to look at you, do a chart, do all your labs, and go, you know what, Adam, a little big in the waist right now. Hey, maybe you need to go down the street and, buy some fish. That's probably what is in your best interest. Hey, by the way, maybe you should be pairing this with some more fruits and vegetables. Cholesterol is a little high, right? The butcher's not going to do that.
If you truly want objective advice,
what is best for your situation, i.e. the financial planning questions that you have to reach your goals, don't you need a dietitian? And that's kind of the point. The butcher could say that I'll give you diet advice. No problem. Are they qualified to do that?
This is where I have to speak up and say, I am the son of a butcher. So hi, Dad. He was a butcher for 30 years. But
this is nothing against butchers.
No, but it's the best analogy that we have to kind of try to compare what maybe an investment manager versus a financial planner. The financial planner being the dietitian that is truly looking at your whole situation and trying to give you unbiased advice in your best interest, not necessarily just plugging a product into a potential solution.
And again, I'm going to blame our industry a little bit, right? Yeah. Because for how many years, if you asked a question to a potential financial planner, financial advisor, whatever the heck they call themselves, if you just asked the question, how do you get paid? The answer was through our products and services. Do people really want to pay consulting fees, financial planning fees? Maybe not, but that's why you should ask the question, because I think it leads to, again, trying to avoid conflicts of interest. The fiduciary, that whole idea of the dietitian is, I'm going to put your interest.
I'm compensated to give you suitable advice.
I'm not compensated by the transaction, by you
Right.
choosing a pork chop or a steak. Like, that's not
Right.
how I'm compensated. And I think that's where the industry needs to kind of admit that they have made planning seem more like, we're gonna dig a big hole, we're gonna throw you in it, we're gonna save you from that hole, we've got the tools to pull you back out of it with all this smart and sophisticated stuff. And by the way, it's just to lead to some sort of solution that we can, put in front of you that you'll buy.
Yeah, here's the invoice for getting you out of that hole.
Yeah. Somewhere along the line, you could go one step further and say, if I'm truly working with a certified financial planner, then their values and how they're compensated should actually be tied to my success in kind of getting to where I want to get to. And by the way, that's going to be answering questions, like you said, that may have nothing to do with investments.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly where my mind went next. Of, okay, so we kind of explained all of that back story of that, but let's say someone is sitting in front of multiple different advisors going through that process of trying to decide who they work with. One of the key points for us is, what kind of questions are you being asked? And that can be a bit of a tell when it comes to what may come out of that process, right? We've said it before, we don't want to belittle it, but the actual number crunching and that financial planning part is not complicated, right?
And it shouldn't be.
It's some pretty basic fundamentals that you check some boxes. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward and simple. However, the difficult part is making sure that we are asking the right questions. So in their case, that the advisor is asking them those probing questions to really get to the heart of, what are they looking to accomplish? What is important to them? And then let's find that strategy that actually fits them specifically, right? This is not a one size fits all type of thing.
So those questions, like, what is financial planning? It's not, what's your Social Security going to be, or what's in that
Right.
pension account? It needs to be the hard and tough questions of, why does this matter to you? At the end of the day, what are you really looking to accomplish? And we know, and we're trying to get better at this, life planning and goal planning is the hard part. It's because sometimes people don't know exactly what they want, and that's okay. Yeah. But then I think it's a certified financial planner's job to be asking those tough questions to get to those answers. Because again, any advice that we give is irrelevant if it's not motivating people to take the right actions and do the right things. And I think that really has to be the end goal for anybody that's truly in this industry for the right reasons, to guide people to where they want to get to. Right. Yeah. And look, we can make this a little plug for ourselves. That's why we put our money where our mouth is. You're a certified financial planner. I am too. Holly's getting there, and even Devin, she's, my gosh, a master's in supply chain management and logistics. You want to talk about getting from A to B and having a process to do it? We're lucky to have her on the team, and that's kind of the point. It's supposed to be a support system for clients. That's not just push this product, all right, next person through the door. If you're truly doing financial planning, that probably requires an ongoing relationship, which means you need a team of people that can help you through it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got nothing to add to that.
All right. Well, then we must have done our job. I guess I'd go one step further. Certified financial planners are not all created equal too. So let's acknowledge that there are some people in this industry that were doing the right thing, I think, by going and getting their certified financial planner designation. But that may not mean that they're doing financial planning, right? Because they may be able to answer that one question that you may ask: are you a CFP? Are you a fiduciary? But if they still have a business model, or still have the conflict of using that as a means to push you into some sort of process that's not what's best for you, they're still able to do that, right?
Yeah, I would hope that would be the minority of the 80,000 or 83,000 CFPs. But yeah, there are certainly examples that it is a marketing tool for some more than it is the way that they actually do business with clients.
So our suggestion, right, to our listening audience and trying to give them some tools here, if you're in the search for financial planning, and it's a good start to look up certified financial planners, I think the follow-up question can be, what is your core competency? What is your experience in doing this? And experience isn't, well, I've been in the business for 13 years. How many at-bats do they have actually getting somebody through retirement?
Yeah, it hit me. I read an article a couple years ago, and it has stuck with me ever since. It was somebody writing in to an investment piece, and it was, should I hire a financial advisor to help me go through this retirement process? And of course, the person answering the article was also a CFP, and they said unequivocally yes, because if you put yourself in the consumer's shoes, they are going to make that retirement decision hopefully one time.
Right.
Us as advisors have gone through it multiple times. We know the nuances. We've led people through that experience. We have the experience of going through that and knowing the tips, the tricks, the pitfalls that exist. But so to your point, it's not necessarily just years in the business, but how often have you actually done this specific task? And what is your experience that I, as the consumer, can rely on to help avoid some of those negative items?
Right. So I think that is the key thing, and why it's okay for people to ask that follow-up question, right? How do you get paid? What are your conflicts of interest? What are your core competencies? And what is your experience in doing what I'm asking you to do, which is getting me from A to B and answering some specific questions around life transitions. I know we usually lean towards retirement, but loss of spouse, it's creating an estate plan, it's young accumulators trying to get things in order for their kids, or building their wealth, whatever it is. What is your core competency and experience in doing what I need done? That is a fair question to ask on the front end.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? CFPs, certified financial planners, seek them out, ask the questions.
Yeah. And see what questions they ask you.
Yeah, that can be telling.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
All right.
Go be a CFP.
You too. See you out there.
Later.
Hey everyone, Adam and I really appreciate you tuning in. Please note that the opinions we voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be most appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, your accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to making any decisions or investing. Thanks for listening.